Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Salamun alaikum. Welcome to this third episode on Hikmah number 211 of Nahjul Balagha. Now, if there is a word that could instill fear in the population collectively, or in the human race collectively, it would be the word tax. Everyone runs from it, especially economic taxation. Whereas in reality, if we think about it, there's massive benefits in economic taxation, be it providing basic necessities, be it providing for those that are unable to provide for themselves, or continuing the upkeep of basic infrastructure. It all has a benefit. But in the non-Islamic context, you're probably going to be taxed on one or two things, and it's probably going to be an economic tax. But when we look at Islam, there's a tax on everything. Nothing is free from tax. You may have heard of two of the main ones, zakat and khums. But there is a tax on every single thing. There is a tax on every aspect of your life. In fact, there is a prophetic hadith where the Holy Prophet says everything has a tax. He says the tax of your a'mal is salawat upon me. The tax of your house is that you invite guests within it. The tax of knowledge is to spread it. And the tax of power, of qudra, is to be fair. See, Islamic taxation doesn't just have a physical benefit, but there's a metaphysical benefit within your life. And in Hikmah number 211, Amirul Mu'mineen introduces or talks about one of these other taxes. He says, وَالْعَفْوَ زَكَاةُ الظَّفَرِ. He says that forgiveness is the taxation of success or victory. When one has become victorious or successful over someone or over a group of people, then the tax of that success is that he must forgive. The Holy Prophet displayed this in Fath Makkah, when he gathered all of the Meccans, those that had called him a magician, had called him a liar, those that had called him crazy. He gathered them all together and said, "You are all freed. All of you are freed." In the Holy Quran, in Surah Taghabun, verse number 14, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, addressing the believing men and women that were attempting to make the hijrah from Mecca to Medina to join the Holy Prophet, He says, "Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwun lakum fahdharuhum." Says, "O you who believe, some of your spouses and some of your children are your enemies. Pay no heed to them. Put them aside." What's the story behind it? That these believers wanted to make that journey, but their families were stopping them. Allah calls them enemies. But then He continues. He says, وَإِن تَعْفُوا وَتَصْفَحُوا وَتَغْفِرُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. He says, but if you pardon them, and you forbear, and you forgive, then you shall find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as forgiving and as the dispenser of grace. There are three things here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the believers to do. Even though He's calling their family members their enemies because they're taking them away from the Holy Prophet, but still, He says, if you can, ta'fu, forgive, tasfahu, and not just forgive, but don't bring it up again that they did this thing. وَتَغْفِرُوا, again, another type of forgiveness, but here you forget about it. It's not even registering in your mind. If you can do that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be merciful towards you. So when we show mercy, in a position of power, in a position of victory, in a position of success, in reality, we will be faced with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And it's a very common notion in the religion of Islam, irhamu turhamu. Forgive so that you are forgiven. But this forgiveness has certain criteria. There are times when you should always forgive, but then there are times that you should never forgive. The times that you should always forgive is when someone has done something to you personally. When it's to do with your own person, your own that, you should always forgive. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will look towards your forgiveness in that regard and rain His mercy and His forgiveness upon you. But when should we not forgive? When we look at the narrations, we find three instances. The first is when someone is insistent upon doing wrong towards you or insistent upon a particular sin. At that point, there is no forgiveness because they have become stubborn in that particular cause. They've become stubborn in that particular action of theirs. The second time is when there is an attack on the religion. This isn't a moment for us to sit and forgive, but rather a moment to stand up. The third is when this personal attack then turns into humiliation. One can forgive, but when it comes to the point where yourself is being humiliated, then at that point, a believer is not allowed to make themselves dhaleel in front of anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at every other occasion, outside of these three, one should seek to forgive. And that, in reality, is the measure of one's success and also the tax of their success. As Amirul Mu'mineen says in Hikmah number 211, وَالْعَفْوُ زَكَاةُ الظَّفَرِ. Inshallah, we hope to have you join us in the next episode on Hikmah number 211. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.